As we did in the previous segment, we're going to clean up our sample data. So we're going to come up and grab that range carefully and hit delete. And notice that it introduced an error or a warning message here. We're going to do the same thing down below. Hit delete. And as we would expect, we get the same error message. So what's going on here? Well, Excel is letting us know that we're attempting to divide by 0. If we double click on this cell, we notice that the cell contents are H2 divided by absolute H5. Well, H5 presently has nothing in it, and so when I attempt to force the calculation, Excel has rules written into it. The rules of math state that you cannot divide by 0. So Excel is letting us know that we're trying to break a rule. And that's a very good thing. What we would like to do is basically figure out how to deal with this warning. And I'm introducing you here to a note. Notice the red arrow up here. I can right click on a cell and put a note in. And I'm telling you here, don't worry about this. We're going to teach you how to suppress it. What does suppress mean? Just like suppressing a cough so you don't cough. We're going to suppress the div 0 error so it doesn't clutter up your spreadsheet and alarm your users. And that's a very important thing. Now, so we've introduced the notion of error or the warning and alerts. We're going to try to suppress it. We're going to suppress it by giving it a logical function. Now, this is bordering on a little bit more advanced Excel, and it requires that you understand functions are pre-written capabilities within the program provided by the Microsoft engineers. And instead of you needing to know how to do all kinds of complex work, all you really need to know is that a function takes arguments enclosed in parentheses, separated by commas, and then returns the result. Okay, a lot of words. Let's look at how we're going to do this. We're going to come over to our spreadsheet and see where the div 0 is. How do we need to fix it? Well, we need to tell it, okay, I understand that there's a 0 here and you don't like that. But let's you and I, Mr. Spreadsheet, have an agreement. If H5 equals 0, then let's just be quiet about it and not say anything. Otherwise, do the math. Perform the calculation. That's really what we're saying. So how do I do that? Well, I'm going to come up here and edit this. And I type in here IF, which it recognizes as a function. And notice that the little helpful blue text says it checks whether a condition is met, returns one value if true, meaning if there's a 0 in H5, and another value if false, meaning H5 is not a 0. Okay, so we want to say that's the correct test. What is the test? The test is whether or not H5 equals 0. That's our first argument. Notice here is the outline of the argument. So the name of the actual function is IF. A function takes arguments in parentheses. So there's our parentheses. Argument 1 is logical test, separated by a comma. Argument 2 is value if true. So we're now going to put in our comma up here, and notice the value if true section argument became bold, so that tells me I'm in that section. What value do I want if H5 equals 0? I want a 0 there. Let's just make it nice and simple. Just display a 0. What do I want displayed if the logical test is false? In other words, if H5 does not have a 0. Well, I want it to divide H2 divided by H5. So there's my third argument. Do the computation that I've already told you. Now, we're going to copy that down, and when we copy it down, H2, or the cell to my left, is going to become H3 because that's still the cell to my left, and H4 is going to be the cell to my left here. So we want these to remain relative. We want them to change with each copying down of the formula. But do we want H5, the test of zeroness, to become H6 and then H7? And the answer again from the last time is no. We want H5 to remain H5, always H5. So we hit our F4 key to lock it. Now we close the entire function with the parentheses, and we're going to hit Control Enter here so that the active cell remains active, and I get 0%. So I'm happy. I told it if H5 equals 0, and it does, display a 0, and it is, otherwise display the results. Okay, so we're going to copy this down, and notice now how that little simple act of suppressing the error completely cleaned up your spreadsheet and will keep your boss from being alarmed by your results. Now let's test the math here. $1,000 for him should give him 100% earnings, and it does. Add $1,000 for her should give them both 50% earnings, and it does. So we now have the correct computation. We have the opportunity to allow zero entry here so that it can become a template, and we've suppressed the error but given ourselves the results we seek once there are valid numbers in there. Now we're going to do the same thing down here. We're going to say, okay, equals if, parenthesis, if the cell H19 equals 0, comma, place a 0 there. Otherwise, comma, do the math. And again, we don't want H19 to become H20 and then 21, so we select it and hit F4, locking it. Close our parenthesis, hit Control Enter to commit it, and we just grab it and copy it down. And that's how you suppress an error using the if function.